Okay, so it is 7. I'm going to go ahead and get things started. David, I'm going to let you take it away.
Okay, so I'm David from Gainesville, Georgia, and I'm officially, I guess, your director, and that doesn't mean a lot. That and $5 will get you a Starbucks. But, Amber gave me several things that maybe you might be interested in hearing about and talking about, knowing a little bit more about Rotary and the things that are going on in Rotary. And so we're going to have to spend a little time talking about that. She said we had about 3 hours. Is that right, Amber? You're muted.
Maybe 4 hours? I think
Maybe we can stretch it out to 4, I guess. Now, seriously, 15 or 20 minutes, but let's make it conversational if you'd like. If you want to ask a question, if I don't see you raising your hand or what, just send a message on the chat. I have that up and I can see it, and we'll stop in, and feel free to jump right in, because I'm just kind of going to give you a little bit of an overview about Rotary. And one of the questions that Amber had, one of you had, was why Rotary? Back when I joined Rotary in the day 34 years ago, it was a little bit different. I didn't really join Rotary because I wanted to be in Rotary, nor did I want to be a Rotarian. I really saw Rotary as the old coots in my town, and I was like in my late 20s, an aspiring banker, low in the ranks. But one day the phone rang, and it was my boss's boss's boss that was on the phone. And he said, I would love to come over into your office and visit you a little bit. I said, well, Mr. Lee, would you like for me to come to your house? And to your office? And he said, no, I'll be over in a few minutes. So for about the 10 or 15 minutes that it took him to get there, I was scared to death. And I was trying my best to figure out why it took him to come fire me rather than my boss's 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 boss that could have done it just as easy. So he came in the room, he sat down and said, I have a little job for you. And I said, what is that? He said, you're going to join Rotary. And I'm like, okay, I guess I can do that. But so I did. And I was the only person in the group of about 80 back then, men in the community, in the county, 3 pretty good sized country towns, population of about 40,000. We had almost 100-member Rotary Club. There was Kiwanis, Lions, and JCs and all that, but they weren't the movers and shakers. It was the Rotary Club. And I just almost, these were almost like demigods to me back in the community, late 26, 27-year-old, and very interested in getting involved in the community and being seen and doing some change. And so I joined. And the president of the Rotary Club that year was the local McDonald's franchisee. He had 3 McDonald's in the area, and he immediately put me to work. He engaged me into Rotary. He made me Rotary stupid, just literally did. He put me to work doing things. The next year, the president after him had me doing things. I was the treasurer and the secretary and all this kind of stuff, and then the president. And quite literally, I just became Rotary stupid because I was so engaged in it, and I was actively involved in it, in the community and in the district. We'll talk about a little bit about the different segments of the Rotary world, the districts and the zones and the clubs and all of that. But after about 9 years, I became the governor. I was I had my heart set on being the youngest district governor in all of Rotary at 36 years old. And I got to the International Assembly, and they said, we have district governors here in various ages. We go from 98 as our oldest to 35 to the youngest. And my heart came right up in my throat. And they had those 2 people stand up. And as soon as that session broke, I went beating it across the room of a couple of thousand people to find out when his birthday was. Turns out he was 2 months younger than me, but he was from the Southern Hemisphere. So my claim to fame was that I was the youngest district governor in all of Rotary in the Northern Hemisphere in 94, 95. But I cut up about it, and I had fun. And to me, Amber and Tim know me. If it's not fun, if it's not enjoyable, I'm not going to do it. Because in Rotary, to me, that's what it's all about. I have the most wonderful wife in the world. I don't deserve her. I married way up. But she's one of these women persons that you just do not, she does not know the definition of the letters N-O. So it's just like, let's go do it. Let's have some fun. Let's have some friends in the process. And so I had not even met her then, but when I was a governor, and after that, I started working at the zone level. So in Rotary, we have a little over 525 districts around the world, 170-ish countries, 525 districts. Those districts are clumped together into something called a zone. There are 34 of those, okay? You take those 34 and pair 2 of them together. So you have 17 directors, a director from each of the paired zones, and then the president and the president-elect, and they constitute the board of directors, which I serve on. I'm in my second year on that. So our zones, your zone, 33, goes from parts of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Delaware, and DC area, all the way down the eastern seaboard. It includes a little teeny tip of Tennessee, relative to the size of Tennessee, and all the way down through the Carolinas. That's Zone 33, and Zone 34 is Georgia, Florida, all of the islands in the Caribbean except Cuba and the country of Dominica, and then Guyana, French Guiana, and Suriname on the coast of South America. So I'm the director last year and this year for those 2 zones. Now we have something really weird going on in Rotary. It's never happened before, is that your zones have 2 directors this year. Stephanie Yurchik from up in the Pennsylvania area, their zones merged into a bunch of different zones. We lost a director in the United States this year that we just started in, and they picked up one in Korea because Korea has had such explosive growth of Rotarians. They have enough Rotarians that they wanted another director, and we lost one. So this year, Stephanie Yurchik and I served together on the board. That's never happened for a director, 2 directors from one paired zones. And then next year, Peter Kyle, who is my technical successor, will serve with Stephanie for her second year, and then he'll have a year by himself. But I was just like I said, just totally stupid. I mean, I was a fairly, I thought, successful businessman. I was a banker for 32 years, retired from that. And I had people that supported me there in the organization. We had lines, JCs, Rotarians, Kiwanians, and whoever's on first this year, we all batted for them. So we had district area leaders from Kiwanis that I'd support. We had area leaders from the JCs and Lions clubs and all. And we just turn around. But I got so heavily involved in it that I literally burned myself out. I was just like, I've had enough of that. Rotary has about 1 billion acronyms. Have any of you heard the Rotary acronym RHINO? Anyone? I was determined that I was going to become a RHINO. I was going to be a Rotarian here in name only. I would go to my club meeting on Thursday, and that would be it, because I had traveled all over the zones, all over the world doing Rotary, raising money for our foundation, and I just had enough. So I took about a 6-year sabbatical and said, that's it. And then I met Kim. She was not into Rotary at all. And there were 2 ladies in the county that we live in now that decided, they were both past district governors. One of them I sponsored into my old Rotary club. She and I worked together for 25 years, and they asked her to join her Rotary club, their Rotary club, be a charter member, and she did. And she was a president early on, and so her year as president, is any of this any interest whatsoever? Okay, so her year as her president, we weren't married then, but I was at her house most evenings for a while, and I just listened to about how much she knew about Rotary till I wanted to go into the bathroom and just gag, you know. And she could care less, and didn't know about my background, but really could have cared less about it at that point. And so long about November, I said, Kim, you don't know anything about Rotary. You don't know nothing about Rotary. And before she could say anything, I said, if you want to find out about Rotary, the convention's in New Orleans this year. So go register us and we'll hop down there and you'll find out what Rotary is all about. So she left the room and I thought, I'm about to be evicted here from the couch. And she came back in about 10 minutes. She said, we're signed up and we have rooms. I'm like, okay. So we flew down there and we're coming back. And well, she walked into that house of friendship and there were like 20-something thousand people in there. And she went over to the Kool-Aid fountain and she drank about 50 gallons of the blue Kool-Aid. And she drank about 50 gallons of the gold Kool-Aid. And she was just full of the Rotary Kool-Aid coming home. And we're somewhere, we fly ourselves. So we were somewhere over Mississippi and I'm enjoying the noise of the engine and how beautiful the day it is and just enjoying the flight, having a good time. And all of a sudden in my headphones, I hear this voice. She said, Stovall, I'm going to be a district governor. And I looked at her kind of funny and she said, what? And I said, oh, who better than you, sweetie? And then in a couple more minutes, this voice that said, Stovall, and I'm going to be a district governor in 1617 when the world comes to Atlanta. And I'm thinking, fat chance, sister. But she did. And we had a blast to it. And she's kind of why I'm a director, because she drug me back in. There's this thing called the Zone Institute that the director has. It's like a district conference on steroids for the whole zone. And we have emerging leaders there and the governor corps and past governors. She wanted me to go to Reston to take her to a zone institute, see what it was like. We did. And I had been very active in the zone for now 20 years. I'd done a lot of training of the governors, and about 2/3 of the group were like, Stovall, where you been? Where you been? Welcome back, welcome back. And about 1/3 of them were that I had missed training, about 4 years of classes there. Like, who is this guy? And so that kind of got us back involved. And we'd gotten to a point in our life where we had just finished a 6-year term on the session of our church, and we felt like there was some kind of call, but we didn't know what it was. Kim and I talked about it. Don't mean to bring religion into this, but Kim and I talked about it. We prayed about it and said, somebody's being called to be the director. There are 8 candidates already. We kind of feel like there's something we're being called for, but if it is that, we'll put our name up. And we put our name up and we're accepted. And so we just said, okay, this is our call. It's what we're supposed to be doing, trying to do some good in the world, trying to make some change. See, there's nothing in here that I'm talking about that really has anything to do with anything other than life is about making the best of what you can out of any situation and making that situation better if you can. And in essence, that's my Rotary elevator speech. Rotary is not about some kind of structure or something you got to do. There's not any Rotary police. It's like, go out there and do some good and make some change in the world. I mean, Kim and I have been very blessed to make friends like Amber and Tim and people all over. I mean, the Western Virginia district is like, I've been to more events in that district in the last 3 years than I've been to in my own home district in the last 3 years. And it's like, we've gotten so close to so many people there. But now I have an opportunity last year and this year to do it on a much grander scale of doing it all over the world, not just in the Southeast, but we get to travel all over the world electronically, if not in person. It's like we're doing about 2 or 3 of these talks a week. Most weeks we do 3 talks, club visits. I got to visit with an Interact club in Pakistan one Wednesday night at 10 o'clock. I was in Pakistan at 8 a.m. and I got to, with a little handheld computer, a notebook computer, the guy was running around everybody, and I got to talk to interactors in Pakistan and see what's they're involved in and what they're excited about, what they want to do and what they need help with. So I'm just one of the 17 at-large directors, along with the president and the president-elect. Technically, we set policy and all those dull and boring stuff. The board meetings are way too long. They start on Monday, 4 times a year. They start on Monday and they go till Friday, and they're 8 hours a day. What's really cool about them, though, is that when we walk in the boardroom, we put our headsets on. And this last year, we had 5 languages being simultaneously translated. Now, that, to me, is one of the coolest things about being on the board of Rotary, because you're listening to somebody, and if you didn't have a translator, you have no earthly idea what they said. but you're hearing the translation and you're communicating real time. And that to me has just like been so phenomenal. Solving needs and changing things in 5 languages. This current year, I think we only have 4. We've only had 1 meeting, but I think there's 4 languages. But Rotary is just like, it's like nothing I've ever seen. The opportunities to get involved, the programs that you can get involved with, from Early Act. We have Early Act now. It's not an official program of Rotary, but it's going on. So at 4 and 5 years old, you can get involved in what Rotary is all about. And it can be world changing. I know in mine and Kim's life, it's been life changing literally, because that woman that I told you about a few minutes ago, remember the word that I said she doesn't know how to pronounce it, much less the meaning. She came home one day and she said, David, we are going, when she calls me David in Stovall instead of Stovall, I know I'm in trouble because everybody calls me Stovall. She said, David, we're going to India. I said, we are, sweetie. She said, yes. At that point, we're already married and I'm just in lust with her and it's too late to hack my head and run. So I said, well, I've always wanted to go to India and do an immunization day, but it's just never been at the top of my bucket list. And she looked at me and she said, it is your bucket list now. I said, when are we going? She said, this was in like September, October. She said, January. I said, it ain't going to happen, Kim. She said, yes, it is too. I said, you don't have anywhere near the immunizations. She packed 6 months of immunizations into 4 months and we went. And the most life-changing thing that I have ever done in my life, and Kim and I have a picture that somebody made of it, was that first child that I put those drops in their mouth and said, this child will live because of Rotary. It's like the little boy, you've heard the little boy about throwing the jellyfish back into the ocean. He's just walking through there and there's thousands and millions of them. And the guy says, what are you doing? He said, saving jellyfish. He said, you're not doing any good. He said, I did to that one I just threw in. And that's the way we felt the whole day. The magnitude of what Rotary can do is unbelievable to me. They told us we were going to immunize 172 million children in one day. What? Are you crazy? Not going to happen. Then I got to thinking, there's 1 billion people in India. 20% of the population 17% of the population could potentially be children under the age of 7. And we did it. 1.2 million volunteers like Kim and me were blanketed that country that day. Do it every year. We don't do it every year, but it happens every year. And the Indians are just, we thought India had 1,200 cases of polio a day when we started in 1985. And India's been polio free for like 4 or 5 years now. And the Indians say Rotary saved our country. That's the kind of monumental change that you can do in Rotary with the organization of Rotary just because somebody had an idea. Kim's kind of, the question was what's Kim's role in Rotary now? Kim is kind of like my support vehicle now. It's like when I was at the bank, it's whose turn is it at bat? I was the GOD, that's governor's official driver for her for 2 years. Her driver and her captain of flying her places to club visits. So it's kind of like my turn at bat now, and then she'll kind of pick up. So what Kim and I do now is that it's a joint venture. If you see our names in bulletins or programs and stuff, you're going to see both of our names. But she's my support vehicle. She goes places with me. She speaks independently. We speak together. But her title right now is spouse of a Rotarian. So she'd be like the dog or something. I don't know what she'd be. The director's spouse, DOS or something. But it's all about us. We're a team. We're a partner. And we just have fun doing it together. And we have fun doing a lot of stuff with the Rotary Foundation. And that's what makes us different as an organization. Kiwanis, Lions, JC's, Optimus, any of those organizations, they're great. I respect them all. But none of them have a $1 billion permanent endowment. Not only a $1 billion endowment that's throwing off earnings that we can do good in the world every year, but we have almost that much in our Polio Plus Fund to rid the world of polio. And then we have an annual fund that the money that we give, close to over $200 million a year, Rotarians and others give to that. It's invested 3 years, and then we spend that whole sum. So we have a rolling out money to do good and make change of about $500 million a year now. We're working to endow the foundation to $2 billion by 2025. And quite frankly, I think we will pass that before we ever get to 2025. And we do stuff in health, we do stuff in hunger, child's health, macroeconomics, building communities, helping them, making loans to them. I mean, we were in Zimbabwe a couple of years ago, and we talked to a lady who had borrowed $500 from the Rotary Foundation to start a business in her town. She rapidly paid the $500 back, and now she's loaning money to other women to start businesses in that community. That's the kind of change that Rotary can bring. It's like somewhere in the Bible it says, don't buy, or somewhere, maybe I made it up, teach a man to fish, don't buy him a fish. And that's what we do with Rotary. We teach people to fish so they can fend for themselves and so they can feed themselves. And hopefully in another year or two, we'll have Afghanistan and Pakistan polio free, and we will have done one of the most major humanitarian projects that's ever been known in this planet. I mean, why could you not want to be a part of an organization like that that's doing that kind of work? So I guess I, in a way, answered roamingly the questions that you'd had. But if anybody has any questions, we've got a minute or two. I'd be glad to field them. Or was that just dull and boring and you hated every second of it? Glad it's over.
It was not dull and boring. I loved it, especially you talking about Kim.
Well,
tell me how I feel that
Amber
way.
asked me if I wanted to talk about cooking on my Big Green Egg or My Man Max, and I decided I would stay away from both of those.
These are really just opportunities. Well, I'm trying to give opportunities for people like Bethany and Anna to get to know. Well, you know, like you said, Rotary has given me personally the opportunity. I've met so many people that, for instance, when we were in Ghana, Bethany and I were in Ghana, the bus broke down on the roadside. Who came to our rescue? Rotarians. So it's, for me, Rotary is like this big, huge, lovable family. You know, you're gonna have spats with your siblings, but at the end of the day, everybody's like-minded and wants to do good in the world. And there's never a dull moment when I'm in a room full of Rotarians. It's fun. It's encouraging. Every time I'm discouraged, I know I can call a fellow Rotarian and get back on the encouraging bus and feel good about myself or what we're doing.
Oh, and the connections that you make like that all over the world, they're just incredible. Look, brief example. Kim was the one that got the call to Zimbabwe, not me. I was her aide to Zimbabwe. And we met the district governor there. Kim and she had become friends. She invited her to come, and we've become very good friends. We talk on WhatsApp very regularly. We see each other on social media. But I have a client that I've had for a couple of years in the real estate business. I've done several deals with him. I knew he wasn't American, but I had no idea where he was from. Never had a personal social conversation with him until about 2 weeks ago. We were talking, and I said, "Where do you hail from anyway?" He said, "Harare, Zimbabwe." I said, "Really? That's a pretty big sized town, isn't it?" He said, "Yeah, it's pretty good size." I said, "Any chance you would know a lady named Leanne Shearing?" "Oh, yeah, she lived right down the street from me before I moved here." Can you believe that? I mean, talk about a small rock. That's like a pebble. It made the earth a pebble. And you'll have people like that. Rotary's like anything else. You get out of it what you put in. If you put in garbage, you get out garbage. You put in some hard work and some fun, you'll get out some very rewarding things. But one of the biggest ones that Amber was just talking about is the relationships and the friendships that you make all over the world. Unbelievable.
I mean, Bethany made 10 new friends the past couple of weeks.
That's awesome.
Because of the trip. And you know, I told Tim when when he picked me up from Michael, I said, I just felt like I got back from a family reunion because going, that was my third time going over there. But it's like you said, we're always talking to each other on WhatsApp.
Yeah.
Like the GSE team members that come in, we keep in touch with them, and, our Ghanaian contacts and our South Sudan contacts. And it's like when I go over there, I feel like I'm seeing I'm seeing family.
Well, and if you take that President Mark's theme this year, it's just right up that alley. Rotary connects the world, and it really does.
It really does. It really does. And I mean, it was definitely proof this past couple of weeks for Bethany, which that was my joy, is to see her have this experience. Like that's.
And I would encourage you as you move on in your life as an E-Club, take that phrase of Rotary connects the world and put it to use. Make social opportunities. I don't know where you all are geographic, but if you can make social opportunities to even be together and do projects together and that kind of thing, make the most out of that, because the things that you can do with funding from the Rotary Foundation basically have no bounds and no limits. You can raise a little money and the district will match it, and then the foundation will match all of that. See, I call it a home run sandwich. You can give 4 times your money if you raise a little money and double it from the district, double it again from the Rotary Foundation. That is a grand slam home run sandwich, just trying to make some change and do some good in the world. Mm-hmm. And that's what Arch Clunt, the guy that envisioned our foundation, stood in Atlanta and said, we need a foundation to do good in the world. And that's what the Rotary Foundation is all about.